DDG episode 49. Almost there, man. Only a couple more weeks, we'll be a year old.
Yeah, almost there.
Yeah.
It's crazy how much time flies by. I guess it's moving pretty fast. 2020's been kind of
Yeah.
a long year,
Yeah.
so almost 1 year.
Yeah.
If and it took 2 years to get there, basically.
My name is Dave Hunt. I'm one of your hosts, and that voice you hear is Michael Swick.
How's it going? I had a busy week. You just got done doing like what, a 7-day stretch of work, so
Yeah.
you've also had a busy week.
Yeah, lots going on. So, but yeah, not a whole lot. We are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that releases every Thursday morning. We can release on Wednesday if you're a Patreon supporter. Michael has his cat again. So, but we can be found on all podcast services and most of the social networks, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter. Just search Digital Days Gaming. There'll be links in the show notes. And then obviously patreon.com/Digital Days Gaming as well. There's bonus content and things there, so check out those tiers. Sharing, rating, reviewing the show is always appreciated. Never expected, but always helpful. And other than that, we are going to jump right into the news. And this is getting up there with something I'm getting kind of tired of talking about.
Spider-Man in general, or just how things keep changing with Spider-Man?
All of the above.
All of the above. Okay, so where to begin? All right, so Insomniac put up a post on the PlayStation blog being like, look at all the cool shit we are doing with the Spider-Man remaster coming to the Miles Morales Ultimate Edition. And they showed the ray trace reflections, the new shadow stuff, the true reflection, true with heavy quotes on it. If you look at the reflections, it's not a true reflection, but it's a better reflection that was in the previous version of the game, and it just looks so much better. Different skies, the cloth material on like Spider-Man's suit is so much more detailed. It really pops. The high fidelity skin textures, the teeth shading, like the character models just look significantly better.
It almost looks like a game that's on new hardware.
It almost looks like a game that's on new hardware. But then they kind of went and hit us with the news that they have recast Spider-Man for this game. Or at least the face model. So, originally the actor was John Bubriak. And they wanted to better match the voice actor, Laurie Lowenthal, with the face model for Peter Parker, so they cast someone else to do the facial capture, which led to them just remodeling the character. They recast him, and now Peter Parker looks, I feel, significantly younger. A lot of people say he looks like Tom Holland. I don't really see the Tom Holland thing.
I don't either. So,
but he looks way younger than he did.
Yeah, I mean,
before.
again, I haven't played the game, and I barely watched anything. But like the comparison shots, like yeah, it does look younger. But I don't think that this is as big of a deal as people are making it out to be.
No, I mean, you spend like 70% of that game in the suit, so it's not that big a deal. It's just a weird move because people already played this game 3 years ago. They've already been attached to these characters, and all they changed was him. I don't know if I fully believe Insomniac. I trust them that they wanted to make this move and they had to make this move, but they said they did this move because they wanted the face model to be more reflective of Yuri's face, who does the actual face capture, if that makes sense.
Which is usually pretty common in games. Like, if you look at Nathan Drake, he looks like Nolan North. I mean, with better hair. But I mean, in terms of like, if Nathan Drake had a hat on and Nolan North had a hat on, and you looked at them, like you would see like similar like bone structure and face shape, and because of the mocap. So, it's not entirely uncommon for this thing to happen. The question, I guess, that I have immediately is this move necessary because they have a longer term plan for Spider-Man and this character?
That is what I'm thinking, because it's not like they're using Yuri's face for this. They're using someone else's face for this. So I automatically see that, and I'm just like, I don't know if that's necessarily like the actual reason. But what I have a weird feeling about is they needed to recast the actor for whatever reason. Either, they had to sign a new deal for however many games they plan to make and they couldn't come to terms. So they're like, okay, we got to recast them. Now's the time to redo it, I guess, and then just redo it in the remaster so people get used to it. And then when Spider-Man 2 comes out, it's not that much of a shock of like, hey, who's this guy?
I still think they could have got away with the change more in a sequel, in a numbered sequel, than they could have within the remaster version of the game.
Yeah, but I'm assuming the new actor will pop up in Miles Morales. Like,
okay.
So like he'll pop up in there and they're just like, you know what, let's just redo the first game for the hell of it. So then going forward, Spider-Man PS5, you'll be able to play all of that franchise with the new actor. I feel like it comes down to probably some weird contract negotiation stuff, or maybe because of COVID they had to redo shooting. Maybe the actor couldn't come back to redo the stuff they needed for the PS5 tech. I don't know. I don't fully believe that their original plan, but I fully trust Insomniac, and I don't think it's that bad of a change. Like, I was shocked at first. He does look a little too young for Spider-Man in the story. Spider-Man's supposed to be like 23, 24. This Peter Parker kind of looks fresh out of high school.
Right. All right. So let me ask you something. Like, you've played, reviewed, and beaten Spider-Man on PS4, correct?
Yes.
Do you have any physical desire to play this again on PS5 just because it looks differently? Or are you just going to play Miles and you might play the remaster version eventually?
The latter. So I will buy the Ultimate Edition so I can have the option to go back to it. I'm one of those people, my save not transferring over kind of bothers me because I would love to do my New Game Plus, which I've been saving to do. I would love to do my New Game Plus with the new Spider-Man. That would be my only motivation, but because that's not an option for me, it's going to be, I just want to play Miles and then I'll dabble in the remake because I can't New Game Plus. If my New Game Plus was there, I would be playing Spider-Man Day 1 remastered and then playing the Miles Morales game.
Would you expect your, and again, I'm going to speak broadly because it's old, and I'm kind of Snakes 1972 put something in our chat, so I'm going to ask a question around this for you because we've had this conversation a couple weeks. Did you or did you not play Demon Souls?
I did.
You did,
but I'd never beat it.
Would you expect
it kind of ran like shit?
Would you expect your Demon Souls PS3 save to be on PS5?
No, because I wouldn't expect that because it's the PS3 version, so it's a generation removed, and technically the game isn't on both platforms because it's a completely different game, if that makes sense.
But this PS5 Spider-Man won't work on PS4.
But it's still technically that game, just prettier. It's not like a full, from the ground up, as far as I know, remake of the original game.
Some of the stuff that they were showing, it looks crazy how much they've changed already. Some of the things that they've been showing. In terms of
potentially, I would need to see the game fully to get that thing because, as far as I can tell, they changed Peter.
Yeah, I think they've done a terrible job of explaining what this is, and yes, I am being devil's advocate and being cagey on purpose when I'm asking this question because the save transfer thing is annoying people, but it is a remastered version of the game. They're not just saying it's Spider-Man PS5; it's a completely different version of the game, allegedly. I think they still haven't clarified this, but I don't think that you can just buy Spider-Man remastered PS5. Like, that's not possible.
You cannot. No, you can't. You can only get it through Miles.
So
no, and like the game save transfer thing, that's not a deal breaker for me. That was just a thing of like when you asked, would you replay Spider-Man remastered like fully? And my answer is, if my New Game Plus was there, yes, I can guarantee I would play that fully again. But because my save's not there, I'll dabble in it because I'm going to just spend the extra $10 or whatever, $20 to get the Miles Ultimate Edition.
Yeah. It's just the problem is, and I've gotten so much crap for this over the last couple of months from anybody in general, multiple people, of like Sony's just doing a really, really bad job with their visibility. Like they're like the way that things are being explained is that you're always finding they're always like showing the cool shiny new thing and then behind the card is all this fine print, and you don't find it out until later. So it's like it's just all these things like, hey, well, like they like, oh, we're gonna bring Spider-Man to PS5 and we're gonna remaster it, and then people are thinking, well, like, okay, well, I already own it, and then but they weren't talking about it then, and then they come out later and say, well, it's not gonna transfer, and then but you can take it from PS5 to PS4, and it's like the stuff that they're doing, they're never just coming out and saying, hey, like, here's a good thing, and everybody's like, that's a good move. Like that.
Yeah, there hasn't been a direct answer for anything. There's been
Mhm.
more questions with every announcement as opposed to answers. And that's been frustrating. So I'm like right there with you with it. And then I feel bad for Insomniac.
Yeah, the contrary is like Xbox is over there going, hey, we got smart delivery on all this stuff. It's just going to work. Why are you asking that question? It falls under smart delivery. It just works.
And I think in Microsoft's case, they have to be that front and honest because they just don't have any original games.
Yep.
Like first party games coming. So they have to focus on everything else. If they had Halo coming out on launch day still, they would probably be focusing on Halo as opposed to focusing on all the other bells and whistles that they have going for their system. And Sony, we'll talk about it a little bit later, their direct thing has just been so vague. It's just been kind of frustrating because you see Microsoft being open and honest, but they're only open and honest because they don't have really shit to talk about, in terms of like, hey, here's the cool games you're playing day one. All they have is like backwards compatibility, like that's really all they have. And like, hey, here's this cool tech, but you're only going to be using old games for this new tech until we release actual games.
I just feel like Sony could just shut everybody up. And if they just like did a 20-minute stream and just showed somebody like messing with the UI and going into the store and opening a party chat. Like, I feel like at this point in time, they could, like we saw what happened when they released the DualSense. And, like, I feel like that they're just they're sitting there letting themselves get punched over and over and over and over and over.
Let's go out of order because I had this as the last thing we would talk about. But basically, important people, the big shots in the gaming industry, they got Xbox Series X's, and they basically showed off the tech, and it was mostly just look at the backwards compatibility stuff, look at the fast resume stuff, look how fast things load on it, and here's how the memory cards work. So Microsoft has hit everyone's with the social media buzz of just here's all the stuff that we can do that doesn't involve a brand new video game because we just don't have a brand new video game to show you guys. And that's come across really well in terms of like,
and it went to a lot of people too. Like a lot of people that I follow even too. Like some, not that I'm surprised, but the broad spectrum of people that are getting access to it is very cool and very interesting.
Yeah, they hit all sorts of different demographics, different level of like tech.
Yeah, YouTubers, like, streamers, journalists. Like tech people. Like they're just like, hey, you want to check it out? Like run it through the paces. Just follow our directions.
And the problem I have with the way Microsoft has done it, because they don't have any games to show, I was very impressed with load times and how the backwards compatible games run significantly better with the new technology in terms of like, hey, if your frame rate was unlocked and it was at 30 frames, it's going to hit 60 and it's going to run pretty well at 60. If you were locked at 30, you're always going to hit 30, and all these different things of like, hey, Red Dead takes 2 minutes and 30 seconds to load. On the Series X, it's 30 seconds. Control 10 seconds versus like 45 seconds. And that stuff's really cool, but they still don't have shit that interests me day one. Like there's still nothing that they showed that I'm like, I need a system for this. They showed me stuff that it's like, cool, that's going to be great when I eventually pick up an Xbox.
The problem, like, not the problem, but the thing that I think they have going for them right now is that as much transparency as they're showing is that if, and I feel like Sony doesn't have a robust launch lineup either. And I think if you're going to, in terms of Sony exclusive to Microsoft exclusive, and if you're going to use it as a third-party machine and you're looking at information that's available, based on the information that's available right now, like if you want to play your Watch Dogs or your Assassin's Creed or your Cyberpunk, the information is leaning towards Xbox right now.
Yes,
if you're a
and
consumer out there looking, and as far as you know right now, they're showing all this load times, or if I still have Red Dead and I want to play Cyberpunk and I want it to look cool, or I want to play Assassin's Creed Valhalla and I want it to look cool, and I'm going to buy these other games, and like, oh, by the way, my copy of Red Dead is just going to run better, so now maybe online will be tolerable, you know, or if you're like me and you play Destiny, like, okay, now 60 frames a second, you know, for free because I already own the game.
and locked.
Yeah, I mean, like, those are all things that, you know, Microsoft has come out and these people have essentially confirmed that it does work, and you know, Digital Foundry's already put this thing through the paces. But you know, and then Sony's over there, it's like sitting on their hands with their, you know, or you know, one hand sitting on one hand and the other hand's covering their mouth.
Yeah. Well, and so then, why this was all happening, we basically last week had a full week of just, this is what the Xbox can do with backwards compatibility. This is what it can do with load screens. This is how the tech works. This is how quick resume. You can have 4 to 6 games running in the background at all times and pop them up. And that was really cool. And it took over like the media space. But the entire time it was like, don't worry, Sunday, Sony's going to blow it out with their PS5 stuff. They gave it to influencers in Japan and Travis Scott in the US, which made no sense. But they had influencers in Japan. They have the console. We'll see what they're going to do. Sunday came and went, and what we got was a very controlled, bare bones sort of thing that the influencers got. They basically got to play 2 games, Astrobot and Godfall.
Astrobot's already coming with your console, so I don't know what the point of showing this off right now is.
And then Godfall has become a joke despite itself. You know, like,
it looks amazing, but again,
yeah, it looked technically, but
they're
they just
being
haven't,
so quiet about what it is, and if it's a live service game, if it's not a live service game, if it's a slasher looter, like they're not. I'm the looter, like I'm the loot game guy, and there's nothing that I've seen that's even drawing my attention to this game to go look into it further. Like,
yeah. So Sony, they did the very controlled thing. There's a couple YouTubers in Japan that got it. The reports were that it is very quiet. Like, it runs very quiet, which is the big thing that people were excited to hear about, because my PS4s sound like fucking jet engines. So I'm really happy.
I wear headphones. I don't care.
I don't. I do sometimes, but so they said it was good in terms of sound. But then all the video footage that came out of it, like one of the YouTube videos, you could see a mouse like just on the screen for Godfall the entire time they're playing Godfall, which then, despite it being a controlled environment, then led the internet to go rampant with like, oh no, it's a dev kit, it's not an actual PS5 hardware. There was pictures of people playing Godfall on the PS5, but the PS5 didn't have any of the lights that said it was turned on. So then that also drew like red flags of people being like, wait, are they actually playing actual hardware if the system's turned off? So there's a lot of weird things, despite Sony having a very closed thing, that just drew in a bunch of doubt and then just added flames to the fanboy wars, which was like kind of annoying.
But I feel like that would have been an opportunity for them to talk about, you know, quietly say like, oh, like even like it seems like, I don't know, leak or not leaked, like Microsoft's like, oh, something came out, I guess we're going to talk about our consoles now. Like, and I didn't know about the mouse cursor thing, and I didn't really pay very much attention to the PS5 gameplay stuff on Sunday, partially because I was working and I forgot it was happening, and it wasn't warranted enough news that it hit my feed.
It wasn't. It was very bare bones.
But I think that would have been a great opportunity if your system supports mouse and keyboard to say your system supports mouse and keyboard.
Or, so there's a chance that the person that put the video out, their capture software somehow picked up their mouse, but there was no rebuttal to that of being like, don't worry, that, you know, unless a Japanese streamer that, you know, had that video come out in their Twitter feed was like, hey, my bad, I fucked up when I was editing the video and my mouse somehow got recorded.
Yeah, on window capture or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was too much, like, with their controlled environment, there was still a lack of control in terms of how they message things and how things were presented. It was almost too clean and too controlled. And Microsoft is also very controlling with their stuff. The people that got Xboxes were embargoed to hell with various NDAs of what they can and can't talk about.
Which is
So
expected
Microsoft,
and common
Mhm.
prior to a console launch.
Yeah. So Microsoft is controlling in one way, but they seem very open. And then Sony is controlling, and then they're just not doing enough for it. And it's becoming a bad look for them. I mean, it has been for a while, but we're like a month away. We're 4 weeks away. We still really don't have anything. I haven't heard anything about like Digital Foundry getting, a PS5 or some of the US outlets getting
And it
PS5s.
just makes me worry that there's something wrong, that there's something that they don't want to know right now, and I hope, God, I hope it's not the case, and I don't want to be that way. But when you, in comparison to a video game, oh, the embargo doesn't lift until 3 hours until after the game releases. What?
Yeah, that's usually a bad sign.
Yeah,
for
or
reviews.
the
Like,
embargo
how far the
releases
embargo?
10 days before the game releases. Oh wow, they're really confident in this thing. They're going to let these reviews go live and give people the opportunity to say, I don't want that, because they're confident in their thing that people are going to go, I want it. And it just seems like Microsoft, good, bad, right, wrong, indifferent, whether you like what they're doing or not doing, whether they have games or don't have games, their consoles out there in the hands of people that I know and I trust their opinion. Khalif has one. Like, he's been on this show. Like, and I can have a conversation with Khalif on the record or off the record, and if there's something funky, he'll tell me. And and I trust his opinion. And Danny from Gamertag Radio has one. And I've
Digital
been,
Foundry has one.
yeah,
like
and I've been in the
people,
trenches
like,
with
outlets.
we've been in the trenches with a lot of PlayStation centric stuff. Like, and I'll use it as an example. Chandler doesn't have a PS5. He runs one of the top PlayStation websites in the US, and he doesn't have a PlayStation. Like,
yeah, and like he was on Sunday also being like, I'm really disappointed with the coverage, and I was like, yeah, me too. Like, I'm like, because
I'm sure there's bigger sites. Like, I love Chandler. Like, there's bigger sites than Chandler. Like, IGN doesn't have a PlayStation in their building. They have an Xbox. They don't have a PlayStation. It doesn't look good.
My go-to one has been Digital Foundry. Digital Foundry broke down the Xbox stuff great last week. They showed the flaws.
There's not a lot of negatives from it. They're sitting there. The negatives are stuff that Microsoft's already told you wasn't going to be there.
Yeah, like the negative with Microsoft is they just don't have any fucking games. Like, that's their whole thing. Is like,
but they don't. They've told us that they don't care about games. They care about subscriptions to Game Pass. That's what they care about right now.
They don't care about games yet. They care enough to buy studios, but they don't care enough.
Which they hope that buying the studios gets you to buy Game Pass.
Yes, which it's gonna for a lot of people.
So I mean, I would be, we see Game Pass doing nothing but growing, and now that your Xbox One, your Xbox One S or X is like your, I don't even know, I'm gonna give a bad comparison to it, but like your Ford Edge SUV, and now your Xbox Series whatever is gonna be like your Cadillac SUV. It's just bigger and shinier, but doing the same thing, still gets you from point A to point B.
I think I would be even satisfied at this point if the only place to get information was a PlayStation blog.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they
let Justin Massengale do a video of him playing the game. Of it, here it is. Here's a breakdown of the system. Yeah, or what's his? I can't even think of his name. Justin is another person I know, but Sid Schumann.
Sid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let him sit there and do like a fireside chat where he's with the PlayStation. So.
Well, yeah, like there's really stupid videos on the Microsoft YouTube channel of just the loading screen of like how long a game loads, and it's like 30 seconds long, and it shows Outer Worlds loading in and out of saves. Where is the Sony version of that?
At this point, just show Spider-Man.
Yes, exactly.
Or
instead, like our only footage of like Spider-Man Remastered is the Peter Parker face reveal.
Or show Destruction Derby, which is a $70 game that we don't know anything about.
Yeah. It's baffling. Let's just move on, because we've been like, this is a horse we've beaten way too many times. Hopefully it gets better. Every time we record and talk about this, I'm like, hopefully they make us seem stupid, and then tomorrow
morning, 9 a.m., there's going to be a huge UI breakdown and a hardware ripping apart of the PlayStation 5, and we're going to have like 8 days before we can talk about it.
Yes. But if that happens, if
Yeah.
they do like a full big breakdown, we'll probably record something that night.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where it's like Sony just needs to step up. And I already have my PlayStation 5 pre-ordered.
Yeah.
I'm getting that day one.
Same.
I don't have an Xbox pre-ordered.
I do.
Yeah, you do because you're crazy.
Because
But
I want
it's
cool
one of
stuff.
those things. I know, but for me, like every time I look at my Amazon account and it shows like at the top, like your PS5 is ordered, and I'm still like, what am I getting day one?
Well, here's the crazy part. Okay, so and we'll move on to the next story in a second. But this is where I'm at right now with my my love-hate relationship with Destiny and Game Pass is that Destiny 2 Beyond Light is going to be on Game Pass. I probably will not buy Beyond Light on PS4 for at least a week or so.
Because you have no reason, so you can test it out. And
I can play it.
Is it crossplay yet?
Not yet, but I can. Here's the deal: I can play on Xbox and level. I can play with a couple members of the community that I know have Xbox and have Game Pass if they want to. And then if I think that the content is worth it and the end game content is worth it, I can pick it up on PS4 and then play the stuff that I want to play and just bring my character over because of cross save. So like at launch and during the leveling process, I don't need to spend $40 or $60 on Beyond Light on PS4. And then if for some reason, which I don't think is going to be the case, but if for some reason like in 2 weeks, like the end game isn't worth it, or I don't think it's worth it to play with other people, then I could just not buy it on PlayStation. So. But yeah, we've all gotten those messages too about the possibility of pre-orders being delayed from multiple retailers.
Which I expected.
Yeah, I have a pre-order at GameStop for. I have a pre-order at GameStop for a PS4 digital. I have a pre-order on Amazon for a PS5 digital at GameStop, PS5 physical from Amazon, and I have a pre-order directly from Microsoft for a Series S. I have a friend of mine that's probably going to take my physical version from Amazon, and if he gets it a day or two late or a week late, he's not going to care. He's just a good friend of mine. That's not a huge like day one guy. But
like me, if I don't get I'm right now just constantly checking like Best Buy and Targets to see if in store I can get one because I don't trust my Amazon one to make it their day one. But I'm going to hold it just in case I can't get one period from a brick and mortar store. So I'm just patiently waiting for something to pop up. Yeah. Which it hasn't, and I don't think it will. Yeah. So I'm probably gonna be stuck. I requested 2 days off from work, the day of the launch and the day after. I hope I actually get a console those days, or I'm gonna be very sad just sitting in my living room. At least I won't be at work.
Yeah. All right, so let's hit this. Let's hit this next story pretty quick. So.
All right, so
although I don't have a lot of stuff to talk about playing, but
yeah. All right, so CD Projekt Red, the game Cyberpunk 2077 has gone gold, but last week the CEO announced that they are doing mandatory overtime, and moving to 6-day work weeks to make sure the game is ready day one. So the game went gold. So they're basically working on a day one patch to try and kill as many bugs as they possibly can. And the reason this is newsworthy is back in June when the game was like delayed
last year at this time.
And it was also brought up again the last time they delayed it.
But they invited Jason Schreier out to Poland, right?
Yeah, I don't think he ended up going, but he ended up talking with
I
them.
thought it was like I thought this was like prior to COVID going crazy. I thought it was like this time last year. But they pretty much said, "Hey, we want you to interview us and multiple people that are at our studio. We're talking about the positive work culture that we are building at CD Projekt Red to where we don't feel like we're going to have to do crunch." Like they said, "Look at us, look at what we're doing." And then it came out now that they are making crunch mandatory, which is not uncommon in the gaming industry, but it's just a really bad look for CD Projekt Red when they said, look at us, look at us, look at us.
Yeah, and then they even said when they had Jason Schreier and they were doing the interview round saying, if we end up doing crunch, call us out on it. Mm-hmm. So this is the industry and calling them out on them going against their word.
Right. My wife said it in chat. If they never said it, never tooted their own horn, it wouldn't be a story.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the problem is they kind of bragged of like, hey, things are different with CD Projekt Red. We won't crunch. We're delaying the game to avoid crunch, and now mandatory OT. The only thing is that makes their mandatory crunch a little bit better than how it is in the stateside is the Polish laws where the developer is located are very worker friendly in terms of like I believe they can only do 8 hours of OT. It all has to be paid. So there's different benefits, different like
Yeah, I don't think
things in
anybody
place.
that quote unquote works for CD Projekt Red within the European system is allowed to be paid salary. I think they have to be paid hourly.
Yeah, and so here's the thing that also changes why like you don't really hear too many developers at CD Projekt Red mad about this. Some do pop up here and there. I think Jason Schreier did interview some that were not happy with the culture last year, and then that's why that triggered the interview thing. But CD Projekt Red, the bonus payouts is 10% of the company's annual profit. So 10% of the company's annual profit gets paid out to the employees. So they have about 1,000 employees at CD Projekt Red, and they expect to make $520 million. So 10% of that $520 million will go to the employees for bonuses, which is why the employees are probably all gung ho about doing
the
this
better
OT.
product we put out, the better sales that we're going to have, therefore the bigger bonus that we're going to get.
Yeah, and that's a shit ton of money. 1,000 people getting to split basically like $50 million, give or take. I don't know how taxes work over there. So there's a reason why you don't really hear too many developers like publicly bashing CD Projekt Red, like you heard with Naughty Dog and other US ones.
And I think the difference is like what you had already alluded to, like, which I think might be a little harder to control with maybe work from home situations that might probably are still happening in Europe as well and happening in the States. But like if you ever read Jason Schreier's book, Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, or if you paid attention to like the Telltale story of like, or even some of the stuff that Neil Druckmann did, and even stuff that I've seen that happen in like Destiny, like these people wouldn't go home.
Well, yeah, and there's also the thing where at least CD Projekt Red is saying mandatory overtime, as opposed to in the US or North America. Well, no, work till it's done, or it's like, hey, you could do overtime if you want, and then if you go home, your friends are going to have to work harder. That like Dave knows this working retail, where they're like, hey, because you don't want to work overtime, your friends are going to be punished and have to work harder. So then you're like guilted into doing it. And that is something very much that happens in all work.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that like the first time that it ever like hit me, like it like right in the forehead of like what crunch was. And again, I know you guys all hate when I relate it to it, but this is the story that I have for it. I was at the Destiny 2 review event in Seattle. I was staying in a hotel directly across from Bungie's studio. We were working with PR like on a Sunday or Monday. Or I think it was like a Monday night I got there. We actually had dinner with a lot of the Bungie developers. Luke Smith was there. Mark Noseworthy was there. All these people, like the Sandbox teams were there. We were, drinks and food. And then Tuesday and Wednesday we were playing the game. And, I was sitting down to eat dinner or something, lunch, and I was sitting with one of the PR people. And she's like, yeah, I'm trying to get Luke to come over here to hang out with you guys, and he won't come over here. And I'm like, well, what's going on? And she's like, well, I've been trying to just tell him to come over. And he finally like texted her, and she's like, oh. And I'm like, what? She's like, he hasn't left his office or showered in 48 hours.
That's bad. Yeah.
Like his office in the Bungie studio, like, because, and he's the director of the game. Like, I can't imagine what the guy like sitting over there that's like, this gun doesn't fire correctly. Like,
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that's, the brief time that I've talked to Luke Smith, like, he's very passionate about his game. He loves his game, whatever he's working on, whatever he's doing. Like, he's what, you like him or don't like him. You'd like Destiny, you don't like Destiny. Like, you can't, but the stuff that we heard about Telltale, where like the studio shut down because the staff's like, we're done. We're not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
Or people not wanting to work for Druckmann. Like, because Druckmann does the thing that you're saying, like, oh, you're going to leave? Oh, I guess that wall is just going to like just glitch itself into existence.
Yeah, and that is very much like an issue with like just like North American and other countries. Europe seems to be a little bit better, but you hear about Ubisoft because they're such a global ones that they have like crunch issues. Every studio has crunch issues. It just there seems to be Polish laws that are more worker friendly. It still sucks that CD Projekt Red are going back on their word of, they bragged about it and now they're getting called out for it because they fucked up.
Yeah, it's no different than an American company in 2015 saying all of our products come from America, and then in 2020 you find out that their tailpipes come from Taiwan. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like, don't sit there and say that. I guess don't write a check you can't cash, and unfortunately, that's what CD Projekt Red did.
Yeah, and I think it's important to call them out on it because they were like, we're going to be.
Well,
like,
he said it. Change. The owner, like the guy responded to the head of the studio responded to Jason Schreier's article, and he's like, and in the email that he sent to the staff was like, I know that I'm going to get called out for this, but this is what at this point in time, like it, I'm sure he was sitting there like everybody else, like as any manager, like, okay, guys, like if we do ABC in this next month, we'll be okay. Okay, now if we do ABCD in this next month, we'll be okay. Like. Okay, now we're 2 months away from this and we don't have A and B done yet. Like,
And they're so close to release. Who knows how much money it would have cost to like undo all the marketing because they already bought like.
Well, this has been the third delay.
NBA Finals.
Yeah.
But there weren't TV ads before.
Yeah.
They went in a full marketing thing. I saw the NBA Finals. I saw Keanu Reeves like 2 or 3 times. During those commercials. So all that money was spent, which I'm sure. When the CEO was like, hey guys, we got to do OT. If we delay, this is how much money we're losing. Therefore, this is how much your bonus is going to be less potentially. So I'm sure it got kind of disgusting with how they had to break it down to get everyone convinced to do it. But a month of the 6-day work week probably isn't as bad as, hey, we have to delay the game 3 months and potentially lose all this money. It just sucks. It has to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I
guess,
have to do crunch. And again, I'm not demeaning this. I'm not a game developer. I don't understand. But I mean, they've been working on this game for however many years now, and if you systematically break this down, it's like 6 Saturdays. Like, yes, it sucks.
Yeah,
it's 6 Saturdays. Like, it's but
yeah, as long as they hold to the laws that say they can only work a certain amount of time,
which I think is
know
terribly hard with a work from home environment. Because, and here's the deal, people are working on this game off the clock. You know that they are. Anybody that's passionate about what they're doing is working on this game off the clock. It's an artistic endeavor. Yeah. They're working on this game off the clock, or they're like any human being that cares, and they go to bed, and it's 11 o'clock at night, and something's bothering them, and they can't go to sleep, so they get up until they fix it, and then they go to sleep, just because that's how they're wired, and that's how they function.
Well, no, I've talked to developers who work at big teams to where they're like, they put the 10 to 12 hour workday in, which is crazy amount of time anyways, and then they'll save the build and then go home and then fucking play what they worked on that day to then go into the next day with like a head start of like they know what they need to fix. Yeah. So you're right. There are people that are basically going to be working on this 20 hours a day, 18 to 20 hours a day, depending on how much sleep they want.
But like you said too, like in my mind, like if I know that I'm going to split $500 million with 100 of my friends or 1,000 of my friends or
50 million.
Yeah. Whatever it is, like
1,000,
whatever, X amount of dollars that I'm going to get, like it sucks. Yeah. I don't know. I work retail, and everybody knows that. I've missed band concerts and soccer games and basketball games and, recitals because of my schedule. Like I have sympathy for people, but at the same time, my oldest son has looked at the lifestyle that I raised him in and I grew up and supported this family in, and he's like, yeah, I don't want that. So
yeah, I saw my dad do the same thing, and I'm just like, I'm trying not to go fully into the 50-hour work week.
Right.
At least if they follow the law, there's like a limit on how many hours they can work.
Yep.
Me and Dave will probably be working 50, 60 hours a week in November.
I work 50 plus now.
Yeah. So November you're going to be working 60.
Yeah.
So we know about like OT and crunch. And
yeah.
They say it's not mandatory, but fuck yeah, it's mandatory when you work retail. All right, let's move off that. I just put this story in because I think it's funny. And Dave, Dave's here. Bungie has been rumored to be acquired by Microsoft for about a month.
No.
And it's really pissing off the CEO. He's at this point, anytime there's a story saying Microsoft is talking to negotiate or talking with Bungie to acquire them, he just replies nope on Twitter or no.
Yeah.
Just because he's tired of it. Pete Parsons, the CEO of Bungie.
Yeah.
So these rumors, it seems like they started about a month ago.
Well, they started with the Game Pass thing.
Yes. Yeah.
So people are like, what?
The Game Pass.
Like they're partnering with Microsoft again. Oh, they must be on good terms. Or Microsoft said, hey, here's X amount of dollars. Like, let us have your game.
Yeah. It sounds like things were like increased in terms of people speculating because some people
I don't dispute that the conversation happened. Like Pete Parsons went out to dinner with Phil Spencer, and it was and one of Phil Spencer's executives or CFOs or whatever, and they probably did the whole here's the number on a napkin thing, and Parsons probably laughed at it. You know?
It sounds like the initial rumor from a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago to be exact, was Bungie's price was too high. Microsoft asked them, Bungie said, here's how much it'll cost. They saw the number and they're like, no, fuck that, we're gonna buy Bethesda.
Yeah.
Like,
do I think that Bungie's worth more than Bethesda? No. Do I think that Destiny's IP does Destiny's IP carry a significant amount of weight? And the rumor is that they wanted the IP as well, which is one thing that people didn't understand before of the whole litigation that Microsoft and Bungie had years ago was because Bungie owned the IP for Destiny. That's why they still have it from Activision. And so for Bungie to give up the intellectual property of Destiny, whether you think Destiny is a good game or a bad game, that is a significantly long franchise that is carried and gets a significant amount of money. Plus the money that they've gotten recently from NetEase to do something that we know that one of their big guys that did a lot of good stuff for Destiny, Christopher Barrett, is working on this new project that is believed to be fully funded by NetEase. I think that, and again, people are like, well, of course Pete Parsons says no. Like, this is going right back to the CD Projekt Red, the conversation we just had. If in 6 months, a year and a half, it comes out that Microsoft has bought Bungie, Pete Parsons loses all credibility because of how many times he has said no.
Yeah, he loses some credibility, but gets a fat check. So, like, could be worth it.
I think so. Bad76 wrote in chat, Bungie's not for sale. I think Bungie is for sale because they need somebody to help.
For sale.
Yeah, they need somebody to help them do something. But Bungie also knows what their value is, and they also know what life was like when they worked for Microsoft before. The reason why this story also got more fuel to the flame was because they were hiring for a position that had a very similar job description to what Microsoft positions have for these.
Yes, and that's where the confusion came from for the recent amount of stories. Is they were hiring some sort of like legal position that is usually a Microsoft thing for acquisitions. Like they'll put these people in place so then they can probably kick the tires of everything and then figure out if an acquisition is worth it. And that's where the rumors went. But I think they just hired those people because they're probably having other people kick the tires of Bungie.
They probably realized that publishing their own game is a pain in the ass. So maybe they're going to find
they have to do.
Maybe they're going to try to find a publisher to deal with some of this crap so that they can focus on their game.
How much? So if they did the whole napkin thing, how much do you think Bungie would have asked for? Because Insomniac got $250 million.
So Insomniac got $250.
I would say 5 would probably be reasonable for Bungie.
Because of the pedigree, yeah, I would agree.
Yes.
I would say 500 to 750. Like it would.
That's what I would think Bungie would ask for. Yeah. Not they would get that.
I think that if it was less than 500 or less than 600,000. Or whatever, you would see something in the fine print where they retain multiple IPs, like where they have.
That's where I think Microsoft would be a deal breaker.
Yeah,
Microsoft can afford anybody, and they proved that with the Bethesda thing.
Yeah, I don't think that Bungie wants, because of the stuff that happened with Halo and Microsoft. Because again, going back to Schreier's book, Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, where all of a sudden Microsoft was beating the Halo horse hard. And letting other studios make games that were Halo and telling those studios, go to Bungie, ask them to help you. Bungie didn't we don't want to help you make we don't want to help you make Halo Wars or whatever it was. Like the Halo is ours. And Microsoft's like, no, Halo's mine. And that's kind of started the problem. And it's the same thing the same problem Bungie had with Activision. Activision's like, you're going to do ABC. Like, no, we don't want to do ABC. Like, we want to do
like, no 10-year plan.
Yeah,
fuck that.
So I think that they know, and they celebrated their independence from Microsoft. And yeah, it was weird that they ran into the arms of Activision, but Activision gave them a ton of money to be a publisher. And it's also weird that NetEase just backed the truck up to them too. And gave them a ton of money. So like they're in a weird place. They are probably, whether, and I know Michael, you're not a big fan, but top 5 independent studio in the world for gaming right now, I would say, right?
Yeah, fully independent. Yeah, they probably would be, because CD Projekt Red is owned by a bigger Polish company. Which
but even then, I would still consider them to be an independent gaming studio.
Yeah.
Like,
I would probably put them there. I think they're kind of they're at a different level than they were a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like they've taken a little bit of a hit.
Yeah,
but I think that's also because they're by themselves now.
It's all going to hinder on whatever this other game is. And I'm
feeling
terrified it's a mobile game.
No, I think that it's going to be one of those games we don't even know exist. It's probably already out in China on phones, and we just have no idea what it's called because it's got a shell name.
Mm-hmm.
Or like a shell developer name.
Yeah, because NetEase is known for mobile stuff. So
it's like the Call of Duty mobile game existed in China for several years before we finally got Call of Duty Mobile over here. So I'm wondering if it's not the price that Bungie asked for, if this whole thing actually took place. I think it would probably be all the caveats that Bungie would probably want, of like, we want to be fully independent, but we still want your money, sort of thing.
Like we talk about like Bethesda working with Obsidian now to make a cool Fallout game. Like in their contract, Bungie's probably like, don't bring anybody in here to work with us, because they had a great relationship with Vicarious Visions. They had it, but they're not going to sit there and be like, we don't want to be like, you're not using our studio, like you always, you're not using some of our guys as an auxiliary map making team, or we're not going to balance Fallout Sandbox for you because you want our shooters, you want our shooting mechanics in Fallout, as an example.
Yeah. Or we're not working on Halo. We're not going back to Halo. And Microsoft's like, we really want you to go back to Halo because we need someone to like save Halo.
Right.
And they're just like, no, we're done with Halo. Or Microsoft's like, we want you to continue with Destiny. Or Microsoft is like, we want you to make something new from Destiny. And Bungie's like, Destiny's our baby. Mm-hmm. Like, we're not going to give up Destiny, or we're not making a Destiny sequel.
Yeah. Well, I think they're done with Destiny after Lightfall, which is like 2022
Probably.
Or 2023. I think that'll be the end of it, unless they go a completely different direction and go like the subscription service, like WoW style.
It would need to catch fire, and I don't see that really happening at this point.
No, I think it's plateaued. I mean, it'll stay consistently on a line. You'll see it go down and up and go down and up, but you'll never. I don't think you'll see a severe spike up or a severe spike down. They have their player base.
Yeah. I don't think we'll see a point where they're like, all right, servers are going away.
Right.
Like the servers will just continue to run, kind of just like how WoW is just continues to run. But yeah, that's it for news. I just thought I'd put that in there. So we can have it covered. So then in 3 months when they actually get purchased, we can be like, oh shit. Look at that. Sony bought them or something.
EA.
Yeah, EA, they made the deal with the devil, and then they put the respawn.
Bungie's making Dead Space 4.
Yeah. Shit, I would play that. I would play that. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got for news.
All right.
It's been kind of quiet because of. I say it's kind of quiet, but we talked for an hour almost.
Yeah, which is what we like to do, though. Like, I don't like it to be the focus of what we're playing. I like it to be the conversation of what's going on in the world with games and stuff like that. Like the stuff that we play. Like, I've got 2 kids in college and a 5-year-old that's in virtual school. Like, and I'm working 50+ hours a week. I don't have all this time to play. Speaking of which, I only played a little bit of Destiny this week. I'm trying to help some people get some things done because the stuff is being put away on November 10th. The thing that's interesting, though, and I'm not going to spend a significant amount of time on this, they did another weekly update where they talked about, so when you get Beyond Light, Destiny 2 Beyond Light on November 10th, you're going to have to re-download the entire game. Because of the content vaulting that they're doing, the install size is
going to bring the size,
Yeah, the install size is being reduced by about 35 to 40%. And they did a whole bunch of technical talk on their last weekly update about essentially this almost like engine retooling, that they're moving a lot of stuff to server side versus peer to peer. Like there's a lot in like there's a lot of people that were like, this is really interesting, and it seems like they're going to be able to do more like live events, and also like I was doing a little bit of like listening to some YouTube videos, and somebody that kind of knows a little bit about game development but doesn't know a lot about Destiny's game development in general, of like the game has on PC has a terrible problem with cheating right now, to where the game will, since it's not going to be it's going to be server side versus connection based, to where the game's like, wait a minute, you were just on the left side of the map and now you're on the right side of the map. Like that's physically impossible. Go back to the left side of the map where you belong. Like these people that are teleporting across the game, or okay, you just shot 14 rockets and you didn't pick up any more heavy ammo, but now all of a sudden you have more rockets. No, you don't. They're gonna we're taking that away from you. Or they can just do some really cool live event where they like in theory somebody was like, if they see a streamer doing something that he's not supposed to be doing, they could just drop a raid boss in front of him because they can. Like in the
That's
world.
That's a fun way to take care of it.
Yeah. In the world, like, okay, fucker, stop doing this. Like here, like, and or because their live event for the Almighty Exploding was kind of like meh. In the stuff that they're going to try to do of like their Fortnite style events, it sounds like this. It's not a new engine, but they're like overhauling the engine, kind of. Mm-hmm. And moving a lot of stuff that should give them more flexibility to do their ever-growing and evolving world. And if they can pull it off, then they could, start sparking some more interest, that they can pull off cool live events, or they can just decide at like 5 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon to drop an event,
Yeah.
Watched a little bit of basketball, but I just like in terms of since recording, it was last week with Josh or no?
No, that was 2 weeks ago.
That was 2 weeks ago? Okay.
That was 2 weeks ago. We recorded on Monday last week, or Tuesday. We did a Tuesday recording.
Yeah, and I pretty much worked every day since then, and I've closed like 5 days in a row since then. So I haven't had a ton of time to really to mess with anything. So yeah, and not really watching a lot of stuff either, unfortunately. So I am definitely not carrying the load of a podcast host this week. So apologies.
It's fine. So for me, still dabbling in Tony Hawk whenever I have like 10, 15 minutes to kill. Just do a couple sessions and play that. Started to play Hitman 2 with Sarah.
Why?
So because she had to miss work this week because she got sick.
Yeah.
So she started to play Assassin's Creed Origins. So she's been playing that, so sometimes I'll pop in the room and she's in the middle of a game. So I'll sit down and watch Assassin's Creed Origins, and I realized how much she enjoys stealth. And then I remembered how much I hate stealth. Like when she watched me play The Last of Us, she would get super frustrated because I panic when it's a stealth situation and then to shoot my way out of it. But because she really enjoys like the stealth aspect of Assassin's Creed and she's good at it, I was just like, you know what? I could never beat Hitman. Can you play Hitman? And we'll play it kind of like a puzzle game, because Hitman, you kind of treat it like a puzzle game. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, you try and set up the scenarios, and if they go well, cool. If they go bad, throw the controller to me, and I will shoot my way out of it, because she can't really do like the run and gun shit. But she can do like the stealth and the critical thinking.
I can snap somebody's neck and put them in a dumpster, but if somebody sees me, I can't shoot the guy 2 feet in front of me.
Basically, yeah. When it gets into like a cover shooter, when things go bad. So we've been basically are going to play Hitman 2 that way, where she's going to control it when it's like, we have a plan and we're going to execute that plan. And then if that plan fails, then I'm going to take over and I'm just going to shoot my way out of it, which is like not the way to play Hitman.
Nice.
But we'll get through it. So been watching her play Origins, and then we just started Hitman today. And then before I review WWE, I'll just do my watching. Continuing to watch scary movies every weekend. Watched Apollo 18, which was trash. And then watched The Ruins, which was actually pretty good.
Is Apollo 18 a scary movie, or is that like the space? Like,
they send people onto the moon because reasons. And then it turns out there's killer rocks on the moon.
Yeah, I'm not watching that.
But it's all found footage stuff, so it looks like it's like the 60s or 70s. It's fine.
Blair Witch Project on the moon.
in my ranking, it's the bottom of the list because I'm ranking it and updating it on Twitter. And then I watched the White Sox manager completely fuck up.
My
The
wife sent you a text in our group thread. Are you okay?
Yeah, man, dude, that game was so frustrating because
I forgot that was
he
this
went
week.
through like he went through 8 pitchers, which was just crazy. He gave his starting pitcher like not even for the team to score a run. They got 2 hits on a starting pitcher, and with 2 outs, pulled him immediately, put in someone else in. The person who replaced the starting pitcher was supposed to go long, fucking blew out his arm and might need Tommy John surgery now because he probably wasn't expecting to be put in the game that day. And then they just went on this rampage of just like using every reliever possible, and then the game fell away. So yeah, excited for next year. They need to. Rick Renteria is the manager now. He was the manager when the Cubs were rebuilding, and then they fired him and brought Madden in. Madden won the World Series. So I feel like Renteria is in that same spot again, where he was there for the rebuild, but now the team's rebuilt, so they have to get rid of him and then put someone in charge that can then take them to the World Series.
It's okay. You could be a Tigers fan who they lost their manager because he wasn't feeling wasn't feeling well. Like he's old. Rod Gardenhire retired because he was feeling sick since he got food poisoning. And as much as I'm in favor of this, I'm still like I'm 50-50 on it. Like the top candidate is AJ Hinch, which is the former Houston Astros manager.
Okay, hey.
But he is good at developing young talent, just not the ones that try to beat the trash cans. So
Ozzie Guillen, who won the World Series in 2005, is the post and pregame show talking head on the Chicago station. Him and Frank Thomas are the 2 guys on the talking heads. Either one of them, if they could bring him in as a manager, because it was so great. It felt like they were auditioning for the job after that loss, because they basically just tore the manager apart and talked about like how they would do better. And I'm just like, these 2 are going to be competing for this manager job, as soon as the season's like fully over. So watched that, was super disappointed. Also watched the NBA Finals. I was so happy to see Jimmy Butler just fucking dominate that last game.
Lakers are still going to win. But
oh yeah, Lakers are still going to win, but at least it was competitive for a game. I was really worried. It was after the 2 guys got injured, Bam and
real quick, how did you feel about 16 teams being in the Major League Baseball playoffs?
I liked it because I hate the one-off wildcard game. I like that they at least did a 3-game series with the wildcard teams. So I felt like it was a little bit more fair because I hate the 1-game wildcard rule that they've been doing the last couple seasons.
Yeah.
Because any team can lose 1 game. Like right. I would want a series. Yeah. So I don't mind. It did mean some losing teams made it into the playoffs. Yeah. But it was a shortened season, so it's like, what the fuck are they gonna do?
Yeah, I just hate that like when more than half your league makes the playoffs. I just feel like it means some of your regular season.
I think they had to do it because of the shortened season. I don't see them doing this next season.
Yeah.
Because it just wouldn't make sense. After 163 games, you know which teams are good and which teams are bad. I think because there was a 30-game season, they're like, fuck, we don't know who's good. The Cardinals and the Marlins like had to take fucking quarantine time off. Like there's so many different variables this season. A lot of prominent players didn't even show up this year.
Right.
So like it makes sense to just be like, fuck it, half the league's in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I didn't mind it. I don't want it every year, but I also don't like the 1-game wild card stuff just because, the AL Central is really good. So like there's a good chance that a wild card team's going to come from the Central and it would be my team.
Yeah.
I didn't expect the AS Central to be like the best division in terms of like.
Yeah, it was just really weird. Like, because my son pays way more attention than I do, and there was a certain point in time where the Tigers had like 5 games left in the season, and it was like a scenario where if they went 5-0, they'd make the playoffs, and if they went 0-5, they'd get the first pick in the draft. And I'm like, what?
Yes. Yes. It's a weird season. Whoever wins is going to have an asterisk on this season. So in a grand scheme of things, it's not going to matter. But it would have been nice if the White Sox would have been that team with the asterisk.
Right.
But the Cubs lost, so that made me feel better. All right. So I'm going to do a quick review for WWE 2K Battlegrounds. Talked a little bit about this last week. So WWE took the year off from the mainline 2K games and went the arcade route with Battlegrounds. And so instead of a simulation game, they got this cartoony art style game with the like larger than life WWE characters morphed into like these buff miniature version characters. Like it's like the very much NBA Jam, but not that stylish. So the art style gets some getting used to. It's one of those things where it doesn't work as well as WWE All Stars, which was on the PS3 like probably 10 years ago now. Jesus. But it wasn't terrible either. It was definitely a thing where the art style was hit or miss depending on which superstar they use. Some wrestlers, because of like their gimmicks, like if they have a mask or they have a certain outfit, it worked better in this art style than the wrestlers that are just like generic guy, like don't have a gimmick, when you have guy who's just like, I just have tights.
Yeah. Black tights, like, and a crew cut.
yeah. Those don't work too well because the art style wasn't able to like flesh them out and make them stand out. So they all kind of become the same character. The gameplay is super simple. You just have your strikes, your kicks, and a couple grapple moves on the analog stick. Moves build up a meter. The meter then lets you get to your signature move or your finisher for that particular wrestler. And there's power-ups along the way that you get, and you can pick and choose those and how to use them. It could be like boosted health, your strikes become unblockable, things like that. It's super simple, but it's almost simple to a fault. Despite like each individual wrestler in real life having very distinct movesets. Like every wrestler in the WWE in real life, what moves they are capable of, and this particular style that they do. That doesn't transition too well in this game. A lot of the wrestlers, they do have their signature moves, like their finisher. But they also just have, it feels like a random move set just attached to them, where you have some wrestlers doing moves that they wouldn't do in real life. Like it is arcadey, but it just seems like a weird thing when you see certain wrestlers pulling off moves they wouldn't do, but yet they still break the wrestlers down and like, this is a technical wrestler, this is a submissive, like a submission technician, or this is a high flyer. But it all doesn't matter because the movesets just feel kind of randomly thrown on.
Every character does the same flip off the turnbuckle no matter what,
Yeah, or the move that the 2 or 3 grapples that they have don't really fit their character style. It's just like they rolled the dice and are like, yeah, Braun Strowman's going to do like an RKO.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Like that doesn't make sense. That's a Randy Orton move. So it has the issues but the game, to its benefit, is pretty easy to pick up, and it can be pretty fun in short bursts. So the pick up and play stuff makes it super, super like attractive to just hop in and play a couple matches. The game is at its best when the matches last 2 to 5 minutes. The longer the matches go, the more frustrating it could be. Like as characters become more difficult, because of course, different characters have different stats and power. And when you play the tougher like wrestlers, you have the issue of the matches lasting longer than 5 minutes. And at that point, it's just not fun.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when you have like gimmick matches. Like the cage match has like a weird gimmick where you have to collect money to fill a meter that will then allow you to hop over the gate or the cage. Really contrived mechanic, but whatever. Gauntlet matches where you fight, just like a whole row of wrestlers. They just keep dropping in after you defeat one. Those matches break that 2 to 5 minute thing that I found fun, because those matches can last like 10-15 minutes, and these simple mechanics just don't allow for that much depth. So you're doing the same 3 moves over and over again and just trying to game the system to get through it. So the longer it gets, the more repetitive it gets. So if you're just looking for like an arcadey game to just play with someone locally, it's fine, because those matches probably won't last too long and you can bullshit around. But if you're trying to go through the campaign, which has like 100 matches to go through, you're going to get burnt out probably by match 20. I started to get burnt out around like match 60. And
you enjoy wrestling.
Yes, and I enjoy wrestling.
Yeah.
So, and the campaign and story is very tongue in cheek, and it's silly. It's told through like this comic book art style thing. So I was kind of entertained by some of the story stuff because it's silly, but 60 matches is a lot. And when I looked at it and at the bottom of the counter, it said like, you're at 60 of 144. I was like, shit. and like I barreled through it as much as I could. But I was basically like kind of fighting glitches. The game with the gimmick matches are very glitchy. You can check our Twitch channel. Someone clipped one of the crazier glitches. There's this weird stuff where if you're doing a move with a character, sometimes the character models don't actually connect. So they'll like be picking up an invisible character, but then you'll see the other character also doing the move and being picked up by an invisible person. So you have like weird stuff like that where the characters are interacting with each other without actually making contact with each other. And that leads to some weird shit.
Yeah, which I think is an issue in the game with the fixed camera.
Yeah. So you'll have weird stuff like that, and that lost me some matches. Like it lost me cage matches and some gimmick matches that I already had spent like 5-10 minutes in, and I didn't want to have to redo them. So there's like a difficulty curve that comes up, but it's like made worse by like glitches. I think the worst thing about this game though is like the microtransactions. So the game advertises like this really large roster. I think it's like 70 superstars. You start with maybe a dozen or so men and women characters, and the rest are locked either by the story mode, which I believe I did a count. You get like another dozen by completing the story. And then the rest are unlocked by the in-game currency. The one you can either earn through the story and by playing the game, because you level up and then that gives you currency, or by purchasing currency, which is super overpriced. And then you use that currency to then buy the wrestlers who have all sorts of different prices based on like if they're a legend status or if they're just like lower card, mid card. So if you want a Stone Cold Steve Austin, you need 12,000 currency. If you want an Elias, he's like 3,000 currency because he's a low tier guy. I played about 50 matches, and I wrote down from the 50 matches how many characters I was able to get. I was only able to get like 5 to 10 characters after 60 matches through the store.
Jeez.
And this is a roster of like 70 characters with only a dozen unlocked at the beginning and a dozen unlocked through the story just through unlocking them. So there's like half the roster I would have to completely grind out. And that's a real bummer, especially when you're trying to make like a more approachable, like this is a $40 game that because of its art style is very arcadey. So you would want it to be very welcoming of like, hey, just pick up the controller and play who you want. But instead it's like, here's a random assortment of characters at the start, get grinding or give us money.
I just really wonder what's better or what's worse. Selling the game at $40 with a ton of microtransactions or selling it at $60 with almost none.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And like I was trying to think of like that balance of like if this was a $20 game, would I be more accepting of it? And in the grand scheme of things, probably not. Just
what if it was a free to play game?
Are unlocked. Then that would be it would make more sense. Like I almost feel like this game was like a mobile game that because the mainline game went off the rails last year, that they're like, let's bump this up the console. And we have to charge because it costs money to release stuff on console. But overall, like the gameplay is somewhat fun, but it's like lackluster in terms of how the execution was. And then with the microtransactions make it worse. So it's like a very cool idea that doesn't fully take advantage of like the larger than life characters that the WWE produces. Because say what you will about wrestling, you can do a lot with some of the stupid characters wrestling has.
It's a character-driven game. Like it's not a game mechanic-driven game. It's not baseball. It's It's a character-driven game.
Yeah, and there's a lot of potential there with an arcadey game. but they just don't execute with that to where everyone just kind of feels generic, and then the microtransactions don't make it any better.
You look at the alternative that existed at one point in time, like NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, which were kind of like a different take on the way it was, and it went all the way the other direction. And granted, it was over 20 or 30 years ago now, but I would love to have seen something that would let you do something ridiculous like that, like doing like a body slam where you throw the person in the air 30 feet. Just have a ton of fun with it.
Well, it's like if they release NBA Jam now and they're like, oh, the Lakers, no, you have to unlock the Lakers.
Right.
You only get the Cavaliers and the Pelicans. And they're like, "What? I want to play the Lakers." Like, no, you get the Cavaliers and Pelicans, and just keep playing them over and over again.
You get to unlock them maybe after 100 games.
Yeah, and that's kind of what this feels like with a $40 price, and then microtransactions is kind of in your face with that. It does have a really cool mode where it's basically the Royal Rumble, where you go into this online lobby, and it just keeps sending wrestlers into the Royal Rumble that are actual players, and you just try and survive as long as you can.
It's a battle royale.
It's the battle royale of wrestling, and it's a very cool concept. The only problem is no one's really playing it. The first week I wasn't able to find any matches. This week I was able to find a few matches, but the wait times were still taking a while. But it's a really cool idea that I hope they integrate into the mainline games in the future, because that would be a really cool feature. I think
it'd be like an interesting live event, like the day before or the day after, like Royal Rumble happens. Like, just do something cool, like in your game, and have like your own like in-game live event for something like that.
Yeah, and be like, hey, some of the actual wrestlers are going to be playing, so you might be able to like pop in with them, especially because WWE's taking all the Twitch accounts of real wrestlers. So overall, like I'm going to go with a 2 out of 5. Like,
Oof.
I don't feel like it deserves a 1, because I think a 1 is like no redeeming quality. There are some fun to be had with the basic gameplay. It just doesn't hold up long enough to justify it, and then the microtransactions just make me feel dirty. And with the style of game that they're presenting, it just doesn't, the mechanics don't add up in terms of how they're presenting like this fun arcadey thing, but then it's just like grind to unlock everybody.
I'm with you, man. We got to figure something out. I don't like scoring games anymore.
It's tough, like it's definitely one of those things.
You said good things and bad things about the game, but then it's a 2. I'm like, ooh.
It's one of those things where, like, if the microtransaction wasn't there, it would probably end up still being like a 3. Like a 3 is the max it can get, but the microtransactions knock it down. Like, I had some fun with it, but it just wasn't there. Like, the online mode is really cool. I would love to see them build that into another game. I like the idea of a simple arcadey thing, because like the mainline wrestling games have gotten more complicated than they need to as they go for simulation, but they don't really know what they mean by simulation because wrestling's not real. So it's like one of those things where those games have gotten bloated. So it's like I like the simple mechanics of this type of game, but there's just too many other things wrong with it. And like WWE, like even with the year they're like trying to take it easy, that's like still weren't able to execute on that. Like they honestly need to probably just do remasters and figure out how to just remaster the games people actually gave a shit about, because it's definitely difficult trying to continue to play these games. But yeah, that's my review for Battlegrounds. I'll probably still mess around with that online mode, because again, that's one of the cooler things about this game.
I think you and I still have to do something like against each other one day after I get a chance to play a little bit. So.
Yeah, we need to work that out.
All right, we're going to move on to our questions and comments. You can send us questions or comments using hashtag AskDigitalDays on Twitter. You can post them in the Facebook group. You can post them in Discord. Tweet them at us, whatever. Ideally, hashtag AskDigitalDays is what we look for initially, and then you don't have to wait for Michael or myself to post that we need questions. So, Andy on Twitter, either of you guys check out the new Google Chromecast? I didn't know there was another Chromecast out.
Yeah, so there's a Chromecast out that actually has a remote now. It actually was leaked by Home Depot, because Home Depot just started to sell them before Google announced it. So it actually runs Stadia pretty well,
Okay.
but it doesn't have native Stadia support.
Of
You have to
course not.
sideload Stadia into it. So it could be a cool solution for Stadia in terms of getting it on a TV built in, but you have to sideload. I believe Google said that they would look into adding native Stadia support into this next year, but I think
Why
this
would you?
kind of
Why would
shows
you
you
not put? Yeah. Why would you
the
not put your gaming platform on your newest Chromecast?
exactly. I think this is kind of Google telling us how much they think about Stadia. Like how much it's actually on their mind, and it's
Okay,
very little.
but all right. I know he tweeted this too. Did you get a chance to look into this? Because it's an Android based. Since it's Google, it's an Android based operating system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you put Game Pass on it?
Yes, you can. People have been, and apparently it works well enough.
What is well
but
enough?
because
mean?
it works.
Okay.
But like it's not like optimized, so it's not like the perfect experience. You still need to like side load it. I believe people have side loaded it. You have to work a little bit to get it working, but you can't get it working.
Make an app, Xbox. Make an app. It works on my television. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely, I understand why Google would have you work for it to get the Xbox app going on it, but the fact that Stadia isn't on this day one, and it's something they'll look into later. Just
gotta wake up tomorrow morning and
at.
Microsoft buys Stadia.
They just buy the tech and they're just like, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Jacob, I think it was Facebook.
Yes.
What's that indie game you keep buying on every console you get, and why? I'm trying to think. Most of the indie game experiences that I have are good, but they usually come through PS Plus.
Okay.
I don't know if there's very many, and it's not that I'm against them, but I don't know if there's any indie game that has drawn enough attention to me that I want to purchase it and play it, and then play it on a different platform. Or an extra console, like another generation of consoles.
So for me, Flower is one that I've bought multiple times. Like PS3, I think I got it.
Okay, that was just free on PS4.
But I still played through it. But then I also picked it up on PC because I wanted to see if it looked even better on PC. So Flower, I technically own 3 different copies.
Okay, wait.
Flower.
It's an indie, so I can say this. Destiny.
Fuck off. It's not indie if it was powered by Activision for the first time.
I play it on 4 platforms.
Yeah, because you have problems, Dave. You have problems.
I only really play it on 1, but I can play it on 4 platforms.
Yeah, I think Flower is the only one. I wanted to pick up Journey on PC. I actually might own it on PC. I think it's Flower. And then I own Firewatch on PC as well. I think the most I ever buy a game is twice, like on PlayStation and then on PC. But I haven't had one that I bought like on a Switch, on PC, on PlayStation.
Yeah.
It's mostly just been like Flowers. You're right. Flowers kind of cheating because it was a free one. I think it was free. I think one of the.
I think it had like cross play or cross delivery or whatever they called it.
I think so. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there was one that I ended up buying twice that was that game company game, but I think you're right.
So.
Journey specifically, I bought it on PS3 digitally.
I bought that because that wasn't that. Yeah, and then I think that one was part of a PS Plus package or like a next gen upgrade thing that just kind of like worked because I have it on PS4. Yeah.
And then I bought that game company collection on disc on PS3, which then had Flower, and Journey. So that would be technically a third time I got that. And then I did check. I have Journey on PC. So Journey I bought like 4 times. So I think I'm just like, I love that game company.
Yeah, and I guess like I have a hard time in my mind. Like I own it on PS3. I don't need to buy it again. I own it on PS4. I don't need to buy it again. Like it's just not something that like that I would do. And technically I haven't bought. Well, okay, yes, I did buy. I bought Destiny content on Steam for a second time.
Yeah. So. The only time I ever do it is when I think there might be like some sort of enhancement for it. Like I wouldn't, but if they release Flower on Switch tomorrow, I wouldn't pick it up. I would be like, I'm fine.
Right.
But the reason I bought Flower is like I want to see if that game runs significantly better or looks better on my 1060 graphics card than it does on my PS4 from 2013 or 2012. So those are the only indie games that I can think of, and it's crazy that they're all that game company games.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, that's our show for this week. Spotlights. I'm not really sure. I don't really have. It's been kind of a little bit of a dullness right now in terms of what's out there, what's cool. Like, I think a easy spotlight would be just go check out some of Digital Foundry's breakdown of the Xbox. If you're a big tech person like that, like just go look at that because they did some really really good work on that.
Dude, some of that stuff was so impressive. Just like I feel, I will spotlight Digital Foundry's breakdown of the Spider-Man remaster. Like, even though they only had that brief trailer and a couple screens, they made ray tracing make sense to me finally in terms of how they broke down the tech. And they almost like ruined it for me in some aspects when they pointed out some stuff with the reflections. So definitely check out the Digital Foundry stuff on Spider-Man because that stuff was fascinating.
So I think the spotlight in general would be right now just pay attention to Digital Foundry, especially over the next 2 months. It's like when and if they get their hands on a PS5 either at launch or earlier than that, like they're going to rip it apart. This is what they do, and they do a fantastic job of it. So if you don't know who Digital Foundry is, please go check them out. Some of their stuff can be a little long, but like you said, they make some stuff make sense to normal people. They do a really good job of speaking to you like you're 5.
Oh yeah, there's a couple guys that are really good at that at the Digital Foundry where I felt smarter after watching it, but I couldn't repeat back to you what I saw. I was only smart for that 15 minutes.
Yeah. So, again, our social, follow us on Twitter at Digital Days Pod. Follow Michael at FirstMJC. You can follow myself at Good Dave Hunt. Josh is still on this list, so you can follow Josh at PJF Josh. You can join our Facebook group, Discord channel. All those things are linked in the show notes as Michael deletes something from the doc. I was just like...
I deleted Josh.
Fired again. And lastly, patreon.com/digitaldaysgaming, where we have multiple tiers. $1 tip jar, which you could help us, pay for our podcast hosting fees. $3 Discord, you get access to a private channel in our Discord. $5 gets you the podcast 24 hours early, and $7 gets you a monthly bonus episode, which we've been doing since I think May. So we got October's that we're gonna have to do pretty soon, and we're probably gonna have to stack November, December's up because we're gonna get busy. So we'll have to figure this out while I'm on vacation or something and stack some episodes in there. But again, Patreon is just there as another thing. I know a lot of people like to support us. We do have some cool announcements coming up as we get closer to 1 year. So we have a cool announcement coming soon for that. But please do not support us on Patreon. Don't donate to us on PayPal. And don't support our 1 year announcement if you are not financially able to do so. Don't feel obligated. You listening is fantastic. Interacting with us as part of the community is fantastic. Sharing the show is helpful. If it's not something you feel comfortable doing, don't do it. These are all just different options. Just like there's no right or wrong way to play a game or right or wrong console to play on. Just play games, have fun, listen to our show. If you like it, share it, tell somebody else. If you don't, keep it to yourself. If you don't like it, tell somebody else. Maybe they'll like it. I don't know. But anything that you can do to help is appreciated. But other than that, I hope everyone has a great week. Michael, you got anything?
Nope. Just don't be a dick.
And keep moving forward. So.